Hello and howdy. Welcome everyone to this AI webinar in 2025. I am so excited. We have a roster of amazing guests and Ed, Alyssa, myself, and Catherine as your hosts today. We're very excited to show you what we've been cooking up in the AI kitchen and then talking about what our partners and our friends in the industry have also been working on. So welcome everyone. Hi. So, Lino, can you do an introduction for yourself for those in the AI community or in the dev community who may not know you yet, just so they can get to know you before we dive into the topic?
Absolutely. It's my pleasure to be here. My name is Lino Tadros. I've been in the industry for about 2 weeks now. No, I'm just kidding. I am currently a co-founder and the CEO of a company called Tahubu. We do significant data and AI consulting worldwide, and we also do training on the subjects. I've been in the industry for 33 years. I've been a Microsoft MVP and a Microsoft regional director for 23 years. And it's really a pleasure to be here with you today.
I'm so glad you were here. Have you been doing anything interesting with AI in the tech community lately? I'd like to open all of our guests with that.
Just asking ChatGPT, why is the sky blue? That's the only thing no, I'm just kidding. Yes, we have a significant amount of fintech companies and medical companies that would like sometimes fine-tune models or using RAG operations or knowledge graph with tens of thousands of documents that need to be brought into the LLM itself. Also, we do a lot of red teaming and we do a lot of security for the chat application that these fintech and medical companies are using as well. Make sense?
Absolutely.
Well, I'll go ahead and jump in. My name is Catherine Grayson-Nans. I'm a senior developer advocate at Progress. I work mostly with our React, Vue, and Design UX products, which of course is all getting shaken up pretty drastically by the introduction of AI. So I'm super excited to get to pick some much smarter than me brains today and see what they have to say about what's coming and how it's going to shift what we're used to.
And I'm Ed Charbonneau, a principal developer advocate here at Progress, and I've been doing development for over 20 years, and mainly in the front end space within the .NET ecosystem. I've also dabbled in some machine learning and AI over the last couple of years.
Awesome. I am Alyssa Nicoll, one of the hosts as well. I'm an Angular GDE, been on the JavaScript side for a while, but I am dabbling on the other side, kind of going in reverse with Maui and the .NET technologies. So yes, well, thank you guests and hosts. I'm very excited to dive in. Lino, I wanted to talk about some of like the evolution of AI and just get your take on where things are going right now.
The evolution of artificial intelligence definitely has been going very strong. Well, even though it has been over 7 decades now, that has gone through a lot of different phases. So it has all been driven by mathematics, computer power, algorithms, data availability, and also lately, the last maybe 10, 15 years, all the power of the public cloud that enabled a lot of the stuff to move very fast. So to go really quickly through the history of it from the early 1940s till about in the middle of the 1950s, that was the era of what we call theoretical foundation of AI. A lot of things were rule-based. There was not really strong AI, but all the PhDs and the research happened during that era. And then from the middle 1950s to the 1970s, this is the if-then statement of AI. That was not really an AI, it was rule-based, so you had to force the answer one way or another using if-then. But it was still needed in the industry to go through that time. And then unfortunately, we hit the first dark era of AI between 1970, mid-1970s to 1980. And that's because all the government, especially the United States government and institutions, cut funding for AI during that time. So, and that's because over promises and under deliver on AI. In the 1980s, AI regained a little bit of momentum, especially in the medical field. So that was a big boost to start thinking about it again. And then 1880s to 1990s, that was the second, unfortunately, dark era of AI, funding the decline very sharply. But this is also when universities started looking into machine learning, and that was pretty good for us. Between the 1990s and the 2010, this is a 20-year period, this was the rise of the machines. So major AI shift. It went away from rule-based and it became data-driven learning, which we are benefit from till today. So this was actually the foundation of the modern AI. Between 2010 and 2020, this 10-year was the AI golden era. And that's due, of course, to neural networks and big data and GPU computing and cloud computing, all that stuff enabled that. And of course, the era that we're living in right now, that's between 2020 and now, the last 5 years, that's the generative era with large language models, multimodal system, AI agents, and that's what we're living right now. What's going to happen in the future? Who knows? It's going so fast, but the main idea here, I believe the future is in AGI, which is artificial general intelligence. The research in that area is accelerating very, very fast, and AI robotics, and it's going to be specializing in industry. There will be focus on fintech, on manufacturing, on medical, and that is probably the near future of AI.
That was a really good overview. Like, it actually really helps because I think for a lot of folks, they think this is just something that popped up out of the blue and now all of a sudden there's AI everywhere. So having the bigger picture is actually really great. Ed, you sounded like you were going to jump in. I didn't want to talk over you.
Yeah, no, it's a really fun topic that I've dove into before as well. Like it all started in the 50s, and it's kind of mind-boggling to go back that far, because when you think of like modern computing, the first thing that doesn't pop into your head is like 1950. But there was like a lot of really big ideas back then, like, you know, space travel and all of that was like really hot. And you saw like the whole like mid-century design movement where like all the cars had like the little wings and stuff because of space travel and all of that. And then, you know, you start thinking about AI in that whole picture, and it starts to make a little bit of sense. Like there were some really big ideas back then, and just not like the computing power and the technology to deliver them.
But now things are starting to shift and we're seeing AI come into everything. I mean, from a user perspective, we're seeing it folded into apps in searching and chatbots. On a developer experience side, obviously we're seeing more and more come into things like Copilot, or folks are coding with ChatGPT or Claude, all this like kind of predictive styles of coding, or just complete vibe coding, which I love that that's the name we all landed on, is just vibe coding.
You say we like I was involved in it.
Yeah, I specifically blame Ed for that.
Did they not poll you specifically, Ed?
Nobody asked me. I did not greenlight it.
Nobody asked me either.
Wasn't
We got to
me.
figure out who's on the committees for these and get ourselves inserted.
Sounds like people much younger than myself.
But I wanted to ask if you had any thoughts on what the potential downsides are to using generic AI for things like coding assistance.
Oh, there is no doubt. No, I'm sure there is. Of course. For my experience, especially working with a lot of different teams, not only in the United States, but in Europe as well, I would believe that there is maybe 4 different downfalls. One is a technical one is a security one is a productivity one, and one is a legal one. So I'll talk briefly about each one of them to actually discuss that. So from the technical perspective, I know Ed can probably share the same thing. It's not always accurate. There is a lot of hallucination that can happen, incorrect code that can get generated using Copilot. And I find out that always there's a poor handling of edge cases. That means I'll have to say Copilot's like the happy path, okay? But if there is a way to actually have a corner case or an edge case, usually it's not very good for that. So you have to be careful with these things when you use Copilot to write code. The security aspect of it, code injection risks and data leakage happen all the time. It is your responsibility to make sure that the code, even though it works, it actually does not open the door for code injection risks or data leakage, which also happens. I'm sure this will get better in the future by adding more knowledge about policies and how to look at things, but It still happens today. The one that actually hurts me inside is the productivity part, which is the over-reliance. Over-reliance means I've seen actually junior developers using Copilot. They say in the prompt, they say like, my code is not compiling. What's the problem? And then the Copilot comes in and says, oh, I found a problem and I fixed it. And then you compile again and you say, no, it's not working still. And you keep going like this 3 or 4 times until the AI says, okay, I think I fixed it this time, and then you compile and it works. And you don't even care what with the code that actually made it happen. It could be the wrong code. Just compiling successfully does not mean that it was actually fixed correctly. So, and people are actually, unfortunately, getting a little bit lazier with based on that. As long as the AI said it's fixed, okay, I'm good with that. I don't need to understand. And that's a major problem. The final one is the legal aspect. For me, the legal aspect is huge, which is license contamination. So to generate code based on, let's say, GPL or other restrictive licenses without disclosure. So that can get you in a problem. The other one is, because I deal with that for IP ownership, the ambiguity of the IP ownership. If you didn't write that code, if something AI does actually the owner of the LLM has any intellectual property at all in their IP, that's a major issue. We'll see what the courts will do in the future with that. Also, regulatory and privacy compliance. It definitely can create code that is GDPR not compliant, HIPAA, SOC 2, and it's still your responsibility. So I don't think all our jobs are going to go away very soon because somebody have to be at an architect level taking a look at what's being generated. It doesn't violate this. And I'm not saying this is not going to get better in the future, but for right now, you have to worry about all of these things when you use Copilot. Does that make sense?
Mm.
Yeah, I've seen some of the issues that you're talking about. I like to call it vibe gaslighting, because if something gets stuck in the AI's context that it believes is true, it will keep reinforcing it. And it could be code, it could be a resource that it didn't find, that it will insist does not exist, even though you're telling it where to go get it.
Yeah.
So these are all problems that exist in like the current Copilot type, assistant workflows. What type of technologies are you working with that help alleviate these type of things? You talked about RAG. I think model context protocol is on the menu here. Like, what are some things that we can use to, improve these scenarios?
There are definitely a lot. RAG is one thing, but I find RAG to work only during the demos on the stages when you have 5 or 6 documents and you'd like to ask a question. It works great. But my customers have 250,000 documents that they need to vectorize. RAG doesn't work for that, folks, okay? So having a knowledge graph, whether using GraphRag or something from Neo4j or another company, we need to have a community of knowledge between the different 250,000 or 1 million documents that need to be vectorized. Otherwise, the way RAG works based on the cosine, for instance, to get you how close you are on the sphere of knowledge and the vectorization, you could be missing a significant amount of information. So I would say for a serious enterprise RAGing, use the knowledge graphs instead of RAG. Of course, RAG works on a smaller scale, few documents here and there, some APIs here and there, but when it becomes huge, it doesn't. We call it the naive RAG when you do it this way. Make sense, Ed?
Yeah, we have new acquisition that we have here at Progress called Nucleo, which is going to be Progress Agentic RAG, and the knowledge graph is built in. So it's important you mentioned that. It has these additional layers built on to make sure that you can scale up beyond 5 or 6 documents and do it widely, so you can get accurate answers. I've seen, like, with the smaller, like, self-implemented systems, the semantic search is a real difficult part, because you're when you're doing RAG, you're searching on the semantics of that chunk that has been encoded. And if you don't ask the question phrased the way it's in the document, and it's not a great search, like, it just won't match up. Like you said, that that vector distance isn't the same or as you would expect. So you get false results back, or missing results back.
Yes, I agree. And that's why there is a lot of different things that is experimentation in the beginning to find out if a vector search or a hybrid search or a semantic search or a combination between two, like hybrid and semantic search at the same time. These are things that you have to run on your own vector stores. And one of the things that I do in my trainings to explain actually to organization is that being able to run a vector store based on the data. Is it a structured data coming from a database? Is it unstructured, semi-structured? Should I use AI search? Should I use Pinecone? Should I use SQL, Cosmos DB? Each one is good at one thing. So you need to have an understanding of which one will do better for you. Make sense?
Yeah, and we could pull
Oh,
these all into
absolutely.
the context of the large language model through MCP, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We will talk, I'm sure, about MCP. I'm sure other speakers today will talk about it. This is definitely a great thing for the industry coming in from Anthropic as well. So this would be great.
Well, actually, that is our very next segment where Ed is going to show us some tooling that we've been working on in that area. But we do need to wrap. We're a little over on time. I want to thank you so much, Lino, for coming on and sharing your insights with us and your time today. We appreciate you so much. Thank you. Is there a place online that you prefer people to follow you or reach out if they have any questions?
Absolutely. Reach out on LinkedIn or go to my our company site, tahubu.com. I'll be more than happy to answer your questions there as well. But thank you for
Mm.
having me. It's always a pleasure to see you all. Have a great one.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
At Progress, just a couple weeks ago, we launched a bunch of updates for all of our UI front-end tools. This is for React, Angular, Blazor, and even jQuery. And along with all of those UI libraries, we have started to launch AI coding assistants. So for each of those products, you'll find an AI coding assistant. And these are assistants that help your co-pilots, whether you're in Cursor or Visual Studio Code. You can add these to your assistant through an MCP server, and these extend the functionality of your coding assistant to help with our Telerik and Kendo UI libraries. So I've got a quick little video here that kind of demonstrates why we did this. And the first thing that we're going to see is we're going to try to add a UI component to our application using just plain Copilot with Sonnet 4. And what happens is the Copilot goes through all of the steps, but it's got some runtime errors because it has added some hallucinated properties. So this time we're going to use the Telerik MCP client along with the Copilot assistant. And that's going to help clear up all of the hallucinations from the Sonnet model and provide extra grounding context for producing a correct code without hallucinated properties and things, so we can display a Telerik grid just by having the agent code it up. And this is a productivity enhancement. So the idea here is to enhance your productivity with these agents by focusing on our tools that we provide, our UI components that we provide, and give that that AI extra grounding so it understands all of our documentation, code samples, and how to implement these things. So what I've been doing is experimenting a little bit with building out some new pages and applications with all of these tools that I just mentioned. So I've got Visual Studio here. I'm not going to try to live code this because these do take several minutes to churn through all of the agent as it works. So it's going to add code, it's going to see errors, it'll build the application. When there's runtime errors or compiler errors, it'll go back through and keep modifying code. So this can take anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes to build out a fully functional page, but it's a lot faster than I can code it myself. And one of the really interesting things that I've found is that Copilot, let's see if I can zoom correctly in on this, my little zoom tool here. I can't get that to work. We'll just take a look here at the corner. I'll read out the prompt that I'm using here, saying use the attached image and update the application with a page from for a user interface outlined in the image. Use Telerik components for all of the UI elements, and use dummy data if no data or service is available in the app. And I'll show you a picture of what this image is in just a second, but let's take a look at what Copilot has done. It will go through and analyze your project, and what it's gonna do here is find out, do you already have navigation in the UI? If it does, it'll add elements to the navigation. If it doesn't have navigation, it'll build out the navigation UI. It'll analyze your code to see if there's data available it can use, so on and so forth. And then you'll notice it ran through and it had some build errors. And when it did, it went and it called the Telerik Blazor Assistant tool. So the agent found an error, and it's like, okay, this is the code that I wrote, and it contains some Telerik components. Now I'm going to go ask the Telerik Blazor Assistant what I did wrong. And then we are going to provide back additional properties and context to fix those errors. And it'll complete this chain out until it comes out with a working page. And this dashboard page was completely code generated by that agent. What's really cool, though, is I used a wireframe to do this. So I threw the wireframe into Copilot and asked it to build out a UI, and that's what it came up with. So I've got, actually, that's the wrong one. This is the right one here. And you'll see it did a pretty good job matching that up with the wireframe. And it even has the grid at the bottom. It's got the progress bars, it's got the floating conversion rate, all of that. I did one for an orders page and an inventory page. And you can see all of those images here as wireframes as well. So what's really neat about all of this is it didn't reinvent the sidebar. It just added the new elements to it, but then it added in the new page if no existing things were there. And it used all of my Telerik components, and it did it with that extra grounding from the Telerik Assistant. Now,
Can you share the URL again before like we end the segment, just so people
absolutely.
can go and like find out how to get started with the MCP
Sure.
server
Um,
tool? Because I'm just that is so cool what you were able to build, and that you provided it with a like, did you just like plop in wireframe like here you go
Yeah,
in the
and then you
chat?
just kind
Yeah.
of, what's nice about the images is the model will help describe that image internally, and you don't have to sit there and line by line like do all of the
Mm.
specking out of what you want. And then real quick, we have a quick video to show where this is going to go next. So we're taking our MCP servers and adding an orchestrator to it, and we'll go ahead and share that video.
Let's build a healthcare dashboard using the Telerik UI agent. We start by calling the Telerik UI agent's main orchestrator tool in the Copilot chat. Simply, include the prompt for the page you want to generate today, with all the detailed requirements. The Copilot agent connects with the Telerik UI agent to design a workflow tailored to your request. Once instructions are received, the agent starts gathering additional requirements from other tools within the Telerik UI agent. Typically, it will start by setting up a beautiful responsive design layout. Then, it selects the right enterprise-ready components and gathers their details. All requirements are dynamic, with the agent deciding how much information is needed based on your prompt. Then we add the finishing touches, layout refinements, and custom icons. When everything is ready, the agent begins generating your page. The new page is created and seamlessly added to your project. You can now run the app and see the results. And that's it, a responsive, styled, enterprise-ready dashboard built in minutes, not days.
All right, so the added benefit to the orchestrator is it's going to pull in your brand materials and your styles from your application, all of those sorts of things, and do layout. And it's going to be a much deeper, richer output than what you're getting now with just the Copilot and the Telerik Assistant. The Telerik Assistant right now is focusing on component correctness, but then this new layer is going to bring in layout and more holistic approach.
But we had folks asking about whether this was available for jQuery, for our jQuery libraries, and the answer is not yet, but soon. I believe what I heard was end of this month or maybe next month. So very, very soon for jQuery. A couple of people asking about whether this would work with things like Figma Pages, which is coming soon also. And then some people asking about what tools you use to create the mockups. A couple of people, and I believe
Oh, wow.
this one you snatched right off the Balsamiq homepage, but I will vouch for Balsamiq. Actually, it's a great way
You
to
caught me
wireframe.
red-handed. I've used Balsamiq many times in the past, but I needed something quick, so I just went to their homepage and clicked on one of these and downloaded it.
But you could just as easily create a mockup in Figma or even in something like Google Slides. You know, just throw some rectangles
Yeah,
on a page, get close enough, and drop it in. But
yeah.
I know we're also
Balsamiq is a
running.
great product, by the way.
Balsamiq is
I
great.
I
We're not
I
even.
think you think pen and paper would work too? Like just like
Oh, yeah.
I'm just like
Yeah,
You could take a
totally.
snap of it, of course. Great. That's a great idea, Alyssa.
all right. So my first shout out is actually going to be I wanted to make it make sense as far as theming what we're talking about. So we just talked about MCP. And we were, again, going over MCP server and using it for Blazor, but we have a ton of different products on all different scopes of development. And something that's coming soon that I want to give a shout out for is MCP server for Fiddler. And so that we're expecting to be able to call Fiddler through Copilot in our IDEs, just as you saw Ed do for Blazor. The team is writing the MCP for Fiddler, and it'll allow you to capture, to do capturing, filtering, and inspecting traffic right inside the development environment. So no more context
Yeah,
switching.
that's going to be really awesome if you're working with like large language models, because
Mm,
there's a lot of like back and forth between the client and the server, and you could ask it like, what's wrong with the payload coming back? Like I'm getting this error, and it can help you
mm,
like figure that out. That's so cool.
that's awesome. And we're ready to move on to our next segment and bring Christian into the hot seat. Christian, if you could turn on your camera so we can see your beautiful face. There you are.
Hey.
Hi.
This is my good friend Christian Liebel. I'm going to let him do his introduction though, but welcome. And how should people know you or get to know you? What part of the industry are you in?
Yeah, so I'm working for ThinkTectra. It's a German-based company, consulting company. And I am also a GDE for Web and Angular, an MVP for developer technologies, and a member of the WebML community and working group at W3C. And that was what brings me here today to your session.
Welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on and join us. Have you been doing anything cool in the AI space recently? Give us a little bit of background on your AI dabblings and development.
Yeah, many things. So at W3C, we are specifying multiple AI APIs at the same time. So WebNN, for example, that's an API that allows you to run neural networks right on the device, right inside the browser, but also the built-in AI API set that has various more AI-backed APIs. So yeah, it's yeah, cool time to be alive, I guess.
So I have a couple questions for you. I'm wondering, how can you run AI models locally? How can you do that?
Yeah, good question. There's multiple approaches that you can take. First of all, there are, yeah, let's say bare metal approaches like Olama or LM Studio, and you can use those approaches to run, let's say, large language models right on your own device. And there's many reasons why you might want to do this. So, for example, that approach is offline capable. So basically, regardless of your network connectivity, also regardless of your latency, you will get a response. And that is great. Another reason why you want to do this is for privacy, because whatever you ask, let's say the LLM or whatever AI inference you do, is running locally right on your device. No one else will see it. That's of course great also for medical use cases or any other kind of use case where you simply can't, or where you don't want to run it on external servers or in the public cloud. And then there's, of course, the thing that you don't need a subscription, right? So it's your own hardware anyway. And so basically the end user, so basically the entity that causes the AI inference runs it on its own or on their own device. And so basically you as a developer, you as a service provider don't have to pay for that in that case.
Mm.
From those bare metal approaches, there's also the possibility that you run AI workloads right in your browser. And there's one API called WebNN, the one that I talked about before, or also WebGPU. These are APIs that allow you to run AI workloads efficiently, again, on the same hardware, but on the web, so as a small abstraction layer in between. And then there's the built-in API series, translating, proofreading, writing assistance, prompt API, all happening right inside your browser. But you may learn about a little bit more about that later, because the talking point, may I spoil this? Is a talking
Oh,
point about
absolutely. Please do. Please
and
spoil.
AI. So you may learn more about that soon. Also, there's a web MCP coming up, so keep an eye on the web space. The web loves AI. So yeah, there's more to come.
Thank you so much. Like, I have another question for you. How can generative AI make developers, in your opinion, more productive?
Very good question. And also, by pure accident, I have my GitHub Copilot t-shirt on today.
You came ready.
Indeed. Yeah, I really think it boosts your efficiency in so many different ways. It actually already starts with using an LLM to proofread your, let's say, requirements, right? To check your Confluence pages if they are still in sync with your code, let's say. Or non-native speakers like me to sound great in English, for example, right? That's all stuff where AI can already help you, and we didn't even start adding it to an IDE or to our frameworks or whatever. Of course, I think the main touch point with AI for developers is using an AI assistant inside your IDE, like GitHub Copilot, like the t-shirt I'm wearing today. But there's also like more IDEs, Windsurf, Cursor. I think there's like one new IDE every week or so. Gemini Code Assist, for example. And in combination with their agent mode, and we have already seen this today in our webinar, you can really do cool stuff. I mean, the demo that you showed today is basically if people are using the Telerik library, let's say, and for example, are, let's say, too lazy to read the documentation, maybe, right? Or don't know that a certain feature exists, or are unsure how to implement a certain feature, right? And they can use then the additional grounding provided by your MCP server, let's say, to get the job done and to get it done faster and maybe better than people were able before. But it's
Can't
I
believe you're
love
saying
it.
there are people out there who don't read the documentation. I simply
they
can't
exist.
imagine it.
I have heard. And there's many more things, right? You can use those services. So basically the same assistance for reviewing code, reviewing pull requests, right? Inside GitHub, just if no colleague is there, just request a pull request review by the Copilot agent. Writing code in languages that you don't actually speak, right? So in coding
Yeah.
languages or that you've never learned. But now there's this one single component that needs to be written in, let's say, Python, but you're a C# developer, and suddenly it's possible. Still, right? You should review that stuff and you may consult another person. But basically, it extends your capabilities as a developer. Still, you need to know stuff about like if control structures, right, and what a for loop is. But now suddenly you can write code in languages that you never actually learned, and that's also really cool.
Are you mostly excited or are you worried about it? Where's your vibe for it? Where we're going?
I'm mostly excited, to be honest. I think the additional, the overall impact of AI, I think, is positive. But also, I want to be honest, right? So there are negative sides, of course. If you just use that tool and never think about the code that is created, or if you create a review by Copilot and never read through it yourself, that will backfire. So to be right. So that's the
Right.
negative. That's the downside. AI is a tool. It is very smart, continues to get better, right, in the responses that you get, but it is a tool in human hands. And so in the end, the human needs to be in control, needs to think about what is happening, and in the end needs to review it and say, this is fine.
Beautiful.
So
I love that.
speaking of, oh, sorry, go ahead, Alyssa.
No, you got this.
I was just gonna ask what you think is coming next. You kind of teased a lot about like this is, helping and this is changing and this is already shifting how we're working. How do you think it's gonna change developer productivity coming up? Is there anything big you think we should be looking for or pitfalls you think we should be aware of and try to avoid?
So I think currently we are in the evolution phase. So we have seen that all of the stuff is now possible, right? In fact, GitHub Copilot could write maybe not an entire app. I think it could do it, but at least large portions of an application or of a software system. And still, when new models arrive, the improved quality of the responses, for example, continues to amaze me. So I expect that stuff will just become better and better. I think, at least it's my personal opinion, the groundwork is here, and we will improve from here on.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing what's going on in the space as you see it, your thoughts and opinions. I also had the pleasure of having Christian on Angular Air recently. An amazing episode. He dives deep into the codes and talks more about just everything and more that we've discussed today. So thank you so much. Is there a platform you prefer people to reach out or follow you on?
LinkedIn, X, Blue Sky, Mastodon, whatever works for you.
Okay.
I'm on all those platforms.
Thank you so much, Christian, for your time. Feel free to hang out backstage, but would you pop your camera off and we're going to go to the next segment. Thank you so much,
All right.
darling.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Right.
All right.
I
Are you ready,
believe
Catherine? Are you
the next
stirred?
segment is me. No, I'm excited. I love to live on the edge. Like, so I am excited to get to show you guys. I've said excited 6 times now. That's how you know I'm really excited to get to show you the KendoReact extension that's part of Copilot in VS Code, right? So this is another way that you can leverage our AI coding assistants while you're working. I know I'm one of many folks that are a little bit hesitant to jump into the deep end of the AI pool, right? Like I just kind of want to dip my toe in the water a little bit. You could probably pick up from when I was making fun of vibe coding a little bit earlier. That's not really my jam. I like to know kind of what's happening. I like to still have my fingers in the pie a little bit more. So I have found this to be actually a really good balance of a way to have a really smart, informed AI assistant with me all the time in the sidebar of my IDE. So what I can do now, I've got a KendoReact application that I spun up really quick using our get started stuff, our CLI tools. And then over here on the right-hand side, I have my KendoReact coding assistant. So I can just start my queries with @KendoReact, and I can ask it questions about our components, about properties, about syntax and structure. I can have it generate examples for me. In this case, I've given it permission to look at my code, but not add code to my file. And again, everyone's got a different like line where they want to be. So I wanted to show off part of this that was just a little bit different than the like fully hands-on. I like to think of this as AI as a like pairing partner. So it's almost like getting to pair with a senior developer. So you don't have to ask a real person all of your silly questions. And as we joked about earlier, you don't have to read the docs. So anytime you're like, wait, what was that called? What was that property? You can just ask the KendoReact assistant. So in this case, let's start off with a simple one. What can you do? So it'll think about it and it will give me, ideally, an answer.
I love your braveness. I love it.
I know. We're doing it live. I didn't pre-record this. So yeah, tells me it can do component details, code examples, best practices, up-to-date links to the docs, tips on how to use our components, and alternatives. So let's give it something to make. Let's say, can you show me a data grid with sorting and filtering enabled? Because that's one that's got a lot of little moving parts, and I don't want to make it from scratch. And I don't want to read the docs. Right, and right away it says, absolutely. Here's an example of your data grid with sorting and filtering. Ooh. I was trying to open this up. There we go. So we can see it's already turned on things like filterable and sortable. It's given me this perfect example code. It's shown me exactly what I need to import, where I need to
honestly, I don't know, is it just
data.
an Angular thing? Is it just an Angular thing? Because the imports are like where my downfall. I'll have everything else set up perfectly, but like, yeah, like missing an import, and I'm just like, hunting that down is such a pain. So that's so powerful.
It's really nice. But I will say the part that I think I actually like the most is that it includes an explanation underneath everyone. So it doesn't just spit code at you, right? Because we were kind of talking about, right, if all you're doing is generating code and you're not actually reading it, you're not actually learning how it works, you're going to have a bad time. So what I really like about this is that it will then step through why everything is set the way it is, what changes it made if it's altering something that you gave it, and it gives you links so that if you wanted to dive a little bit deeper into our documentation on sorting and filtering, you can go do that. Now, of course, I can also just copy and paste this directly into my app, and I've got a functional grid that's just that easy. But yeah, I really like the ability to do things like just ask it quick questions, you know, how would I change theme color to secondary instead of primary? And it'll give me the quick answer without me having to go sort through pages and pages and pages of docs. So yeah, it's like a
That's
buddy.
awesome.
Yeah. So
Another
here,
thing
right?
that I've
Oh, go on.
sorry, I was gonna say another thing I've found helpful here, Catherine, is if you have like something that's already in the window that you've coded up and like you're not sure about it, you can highlight it and then
Yeah.
trigger the assistant from the little pop-up window and ask it specifically about that selected code. That's pretty neat stuff too.
So I get confused. You both have had the tools much longer than I have in your spaces. I get confused between what Catherine is showing off in the chat versus the full-blown MCP server. So like Ed, that feature you just talked about where you can highlight code and like ask it questions about it. I assume you can do that in both versions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they both back into the same assistant. The MCP tool I find to be more proficient because it plugs into the agent workflow. And what that means
Mm.
is if there is an error, it will try to autocorrect it itself. So you don't have to have the human in the loop as often. So you can just fire off a query and let it, you can walk away, go grab your coffee and come back, and usually it's figured out the solution by then. And it may call the tool several times. Like it might compile
Mm.
something, go, oh, that didn't work. I need to call the Telerik assistant again and see what I did wrong. Whereas
Mm.
the ask mode will only fire it off one time.
I like that we offer both though, because I feel like, as Catherine was saying, she doesn't necessarily want it like writing in the file and things like that. So I like
Yeah,
that we
I
have just like
totally
levels on. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
totally
there's a
get
time and a
both
place for
modes.
both. Yeah.
And there was an update in Visual Studio Code recently that allows you to use the MCP version in ask mode. So you don't have to set up both. You don't have to set up both like agent modes separately anymore. So you can just set up the MCP tool, toggle over to ask mode and ask the MCP client, and it works the same way. It just gives you less setup.
Mm.
We've had a lot of questions, Catherine, about like where can we use the assistance at, like Cursor. Does it work in Cursor? Does it work in JetBrains IDE? Does it work here and there? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
So the one I am showing is our VSCode extension. You can swap which models you're working with here, and you can toggle. I saw somebody ask about swapping between like agent mode and stuff. So you can swap here as well to kind of specify. We also have MCP options. So if you should be able to use this wherever you're coding in some form. Did I miss
Oh,
anything, Ed?
I was assuming MCP was just VS Code as well. So MCP server could be used on any of the editors.
Yes. So MCP is
That's
an
my
open
understanding.
standard. So anything that supports MCP technically can use
I
it.
see.
Doesn't
So
even
it does
really
support it.
have to
Okay.
be an IDE. I don't know why you'd use it outside of an IDE, but you potentially could. So anything that will connect to an MCP server will use the agent. I think we have a really good question in chat that I want to kind of just riff on
Ooh,
for 1 second. So
yeah.
Nathan asked, I have an older application that uses some MS controls, and I'd like to replace them with Telerik data grids. Will these tools help me with that? So the concept of like taking and translating from like an older style or another component framework or something like that could work with this. So it would rely on the large language model underneath, like Sonnet or GPT or whatever it is, in the main copilot. And what you would do is ask it to translate from your existing code to use what your target is going to be. And then the model's going to try to use what's in its knowledge base to do that. And then if you're using our components and our assistant, it can add additional context. So you could say, I've got these widgets from some component vendor, and I want to make the same page, but with Telerik components. It could potentially do that. It's not something that I think we've tested and are folks on staff are agreeing with me in the chat as well. That's not 100% guarantee this will work the first time, but it'll definitely make that whole process easier. So there is some translation capabilities with the large language models themselves that I think will help with that. And it's going to get you there faster, if not take you like most of the way there. It's like the 80-20 rule. It'll probably get you 80% of the way there with some things that,
Mm.
still have some old code intermingled that you can just manually go and edit out.
I think we have one shout out before our next guest. The Progress AI Observability Platform. Building and managing AI powered applications in production can be tough, as many of us know, and full visibility into how they actually work is critical. So Progress is currently developing a new observability platform to help capture traces, evaluations, and metrics so you can understand and improve your AI applications. We just opened our early access program, and we're looking for teams actively building AI-powered apps to partner with us in shaping the platform. As an early adopter, you may also get exclusive access to the first 3 months. So join our early adopters program if you're interested. Here's a QR code and should lead you to a link to join. But yes, let's shout out number 2. I've got one more. So at the very end, you all shall be very excited. All right, so we have, I believe, our last hot seat segment. I think, yes, Mike and Brian. Can you turn your cameras? Hey! Oh my gosh, it's so good to see you both.
It's good to see you as well.
So can you both do an introduction for yourselves? We have a very broad audience here today, and we'll be sending this out also to a broad audience. So who are you, and what do you do in the industry?
Sure, I'll go first. My name is Mike Ryan. I'm a Google developer expert in web technologies. I'm also a prolific open source author. So if you are an Angular developer, for example, you've likely used some of my open source work, specifically in JRX. Today, I'm a consultant at a consultancy called Live Love App. We help large companies and finance companies bring data to life on the web. And I'm actively working on my new open source project, hashbrown.dev, which is a framework for building generative user interfaces using AI.
Yeah, my name is Brian. I'm also a Google developer expert in web and Angular, and I do all the same things that Mike said. We get to work together at Live Love App, and we're building Hashbrown, a generative UI framework for TypeScript that works with React and Angular. So check it out.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. We have an Angular Air episode as well, where we like dive into Hashbrown, using it. What is it? How are like I feel like there's a million ways you can use it. So check them out for sure. So I'm going to start. I've got questions for both of you, Mike and Brian. Brian, what types of tools can AI provide to help developers?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of tools out there. I mean, honestly, we're seeing tools at all the different layers of the stack, all the way from editors that are working like Cursor and Copilot. We've got documentation tools out there that are really great at taking documentation, ingesting those into your coding assistants. And then there's also like DevOps tools out there as well. So those of us that maybe struggle with building CI and CD pipelines, there's a lot of tools out there that'll help you kind of build those pipelines and get everything up and running. And so I think it's really interesting in that a lot of the AI tools, from my perspective as a developer, really kind of started in the realm of like writing code for you. And now with things like MCP and kind of larger tool sets, we're able to kind of just not write code, but really understand all the code and kind of all the different systems that are coming into play. And so some of the tools that I like to use are things like Cursor and Copilot. ChatGPT is great. Warp AI, if you haven't used that, is also great. And then things like LangChain and Llama Index are also really great tools to check out.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Mike, I'm going to bounce over to you so we can like go back, do a back and forth. How can JavaScript developers benefit from AI? What do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, I think a lot of the tools we've talked today around using MCP to connect developer tools to our IDEs and our coding agents are really big, strong use cases that JavaScript developers should be exploring. The ability to accelerate through writing code and getting applications developed and new features shipped. And it's just a huge win. I get a big smile on my face when my AI coding agent just perfectly gets the implementation right, or I'm able to have a conversation with it and work through tasks faster than I was able to before. But also when I think JavaScript, I do think about user interfaces a lot. And I think about the kinds of applications that we can now go build with AI. And I think there's a lot of conversation to be had about, okay, we have these great developer tools that are AI enabled. What does it look like now when we start thinking about weaving AI into the user experience of the products we're building? So my favorite illustration of this idea is we've all used calendar applications before, and maybe a few unlucky developers of us have gotten to build one of these. And if you're building, say, a control that lets a user configure a recurrence for a scheduling event, well, trying to get that to work in a way that's really accessible, given the complexity of the control, can be a big challenge. We're trying to internationalize that so it works in different languages or locales. It's a really big challenge. But if we take AI and we thread it into our application's experience, we can actually start building natural language inputs through our applications. We can just let the user say when an event should recur and use AI to translate that into the structured data, maybe like an R rule specification that takes that natural language that our users have provided us and gives us the structured data we need for our systems and backends. And the result is going to be applications that are, again, easier to use, that are easier to make accessible, and are multilingual without having to put a lot of effort into it.
Kind of following up, how can developers get a little bit more contextual help from AI when we're talking about creating these kinds of new interfaces, and how can we leverage it to get a little bit more, yeah, little boost, little contextual boost?
Yeah, I think we've already mentioned MCP a few times, and MCP in this particular area is really helpful, I think, because MCP is going to allow the AI agent to kind of query for live data, so they can see what's going on inside of your tool itself, inside of Cursor or whatever it is. One of the MCP servers that I use frequently is the NX tool. So if I'm building inside of a monorepo, the nice thing about the NX tool is it can provide additional contextual help to the AI in terms of like project structure and layout. And so I'm a big fan of that. I also really like the Cursor rules files. And so I usually have like layers of those kind of stacked up in terms of like overall architectural guidance and kind of how the application is designed, and then down to like specific files and specific instances. This is how I write services. This is how I write my UI layer. This is how I write my backend. This is my database structure. And kind of breaking that all down into multiple files, I think, is a really great way to provide additional context help to the AI. I think we also have to be careful. I want to caution us a little bit here because, the context windows for these AIs are really large, right? Like we can stuff lots of tokens in there, but just because they're large, I have found, and this is very applicable in the tool calling space. If you've used tool calling or function calling, the AI, once you get over a certain size limit, I think VSCode limits like the tool calling to like 100 or 150 or something like that. Once you get to a lot of context and a lot of tools, the AI starts to get almost confused, like almost like us as humans, right? If I give you, 50 options of what to wear this morning, you might take a long time to try to figure out, well, now I have to look at this one and this one. I have to narrow this down. What's the weather today? Oh, I don't know. What should I do? Right. And so you just like, you have lots of options. And I think the context window is a great thing because we can stuff the context with lots of valuable information to guide the AI. But we do need to be careful in that we're giving it the right information. And I do think that one thing that I've seen out there is just like a little caution to the wind here is like taking a backend API and just like straight converting it to MCP, maybe not the best approach. That might be built to give like 10,000 objects as a response. And the AI is going to get 10,000 objects back and be like, whoa, I don't know what to do with all this information. So I think that we can really go a long way around like providing some guardrails and customization around that context to really start to allow the AI to be more intelligent rather than giving it tons of options and just hoping for the best. And so, yeah, that's kind of the best answer I can provide to the question, Catherine. Hopefully a little bit of fun there too.
That's
That
a good one.
analysis paralysis is a real issue where it gets in the flow of can't decide what tools to use. And I think Visual Studio Code has an interesting addition they just made where you can create your own mode for the assistant. So additionally, there's the ask and agent mode, and now you can add a custom mode, and you can define a smaller set of tools that you want it to call. So if you're working like so if you're like maybe you've got like a full stack dev situation going on and you're going from, okay, I was working on the UI, now I need to transition over to like processing some Word documents. You can select a mode that only has tools for working with, backend code and document processing, and then
That's great.
eliminate all of the UI tool calling stuff that doesn't make sense there. So that's
Yeah.
a
Very
brand new
cool.
thing. It's in the drop-down box on VSCode for selecting your agent mode.
Very cool.
Very
Very cool.
cool.
That's great. Thanks, Ed. I did not know about that. I appreciate that. I
Yeah,
got to learn a lot of stuff today.
it's all happening so fast.
It
Oh my
is.
gosh.
It really is, which
Mike,
is why the next
Mike and
question I'm going to ask
Brian.
you
Oh yeah.
is almost unfair. What do you think is coming next? what's your prediction for AI
It's in the
powered
magic 8
developer
ball.
productivity? Yeah, shake the 8 ball. Tell us what's inside. Good news, I hope.
I'll take a stab at that one. So I think
Yeah, you got
there's, to Brian's point, and having to navigate context. Context is everything when it comes to doing any kind of engineering with AI, whether we're trying to plug up tools into our IDE or actually trying to ship AI-powered features and applications. We as developers have to manage that context as carefully as we can to get the best result or outcome. And so I suspect what's next is already being hinted with like the release of GPT-5, which is this idea of a router or building routers into our agents, into our workflows, and basically allowing another AI to select, okay, based on this prompt, based on the context I have available for you, these sets of tools or these sets of parameters are what we should actually use to go execute and help resolve that query. I think routing is going to be a really big challenge. I don't know if there's any easy answers to this question right now, but I suspect that's where we're headed next as we continue to mature out large language
That's really
models.
cool. Brian, do you have anything you want to add to his prediction, or maybe
yeah.
opposite?
I think I'm going to like tag a little bit onto Mike's previous answer when he was talking about generative UI. And this is something that Mike and I are obviously very passionate about, and we're writing an open source library around it. But I'm really excited for the future of like web apps and the future of any app, native app, whatever you want to call it. In that, my wife is an accountant and she uses Perplexity a lot to answer things and to get answers and all of this stuff. But she still loads up like traditional web apps, and she gets frustrated really quickly because she knows, like, as our users, again, I use my wife as an example. She's super smart and beautiful if she's watching. And so but like she gets frustrated, right, because she's like, why can't I just like tell it what I want? Why won't this work? Like, I just want to ask it a question. Like, I have to go here, I have to go here. I'm trying to book I don't want to pick on Airbnb. I'm trying to book a place. I want to go to this location around these dates. I got to do this drop down. I got to click, click, click. I got to click, click, click. I got to go here, go there. And I think to some extent, one solution to this that we're seeing today is like the chatbot, which is fine. I'm not going to like rail on chatbots, but I think that there's also a better, more meaningful solution that we can build for our users, where we're using the power of natural language. We're using the knowledge that's in these tools, and that we can augment with things like RAG and GraphRag that one of our other panelists mentioned. I really think we can make like user experience just way better with AI. And I'm really excited for like the future for my 3-year-old, when she's going to be able to open an app and she's going to look at like apps that I wrote. And she's going to be like, oh my gosh, like you had a menu bar? What is a menu bar? What is these 3 lines in the top left? I don't even know what this is. Like, that opens this thing. Like, why can't I just like go where I need to go and get what I need to get? And like, I just want to buy this thing. Like, we put a lot of like work and effort into building these huge cognitive loads for our users. They land on our website and have to know where everything is and where to search and where to find my product and where to get the reviews and where do I go here for this, or I want to answer this technical answer around whatever it is. And it just seems like a lot of effort that we've put into it. And I think we've done a great job over, doing that and designing that over the last 20 or 30 years. But I think that's all going to get blown away with AI. And I think we're going to really start to see applications and interfaces that are unlike the things of the past, and where these are the interfaces that users are going to want these days, because they're going to get used to things like GPT and all of these tools out there. They're going to really appreciate the natural language and the ability, and they're going to be excited to use apps that are like that. And so I'm excited about the future of what we as app developers are going to build.
I love that. Thank you both so much for your time today. I know we're over chat. We're going to do a wrap shortly, but Mike and Brian, what is the platform of choice for people to follow you, reach out later?
Yeah, you can follow me on Blue Sky, GitHub, or LinkedIn, Mike Ryan Dev. I'm also available on X and Medium, so please come check it out. I tweet mostly about AI and UI, so if you're interested in that kind of content, please subscribe.
Yeah, same. I think LinkedIn is also the best these days. So just go check out LinkedIn
What
slash
is
VLab.
going on? LinkedIn is taking over. I don't know.
I
I feel like I
know.
just woke up and was like, wait, LinkedIn is cool now? But like seriously, I think
I
they're cool
don't know
now.
if I'd go to
Anyways.
cool.
It's just where
it's the
everybody else already
drama-free
was
platform.
after
Right.
Twitter hit the booze.
Oh, thank you, Mike and Brian. My last shout out is to our Discord, where if you want to talk about any of the things, whether it's our MCP servers, whether it's our observability AI platform, whether it's anything that we've talked about today or more, Catherine, Ed, and myself will all be on our Discord that we're going to be growing to kind of keep the conversation going around these technologies and just development in general. So yeah, come hang out with us. We are there and we are ready for your questions. So yeah, I think that's.
Yeah,
I think
feel
we have a
free to.
final poll though.
I was gonna say,
Oh
feel
yeah,
free to
Ed.
strike up a conversation. There's also an events channel that has this event
Mm,
listed under it. So if it's definitely something specific to this event you want to ask, go there and or
beautiful.
start a new thread somewhere else.
For a laugh, our friend Eric in the questions wrote, "A Telerik webinar is never late, nor is it early. It finishes precisely when it means to." So
That's right.
thank you guys for the good humor
That's
and for
a.
hanging with us a little bit late. And if you had to drop
We
early,
know this like
it's a
the end
recording.
of like Breaking Bad, where they're just like there's no runtime. Like we're just gonna go as long as we need.
Yeah. That's a wrap. Thank you guys for hanging out with us,
Amazing.
and thank you especially to those who stayed on a little bit late, hung with us all the way to the end. Bye.
Bye.